are you guys this week? Listen, I'm just noticing the sun is coming around the corner. Oh yeah, this is going to be one of those lives where you'll probably see the sun full on my face. And at this time of the year, it is a great thing to have some sun, especially here in the Vancouver area where we mostly experience rain. But if it happens, you'll see me. I'm going to shift around and hopefully it'll all work out. So today what I wanted to talk about was how to get out of a negative tailspin. So this is something that we all experience from time to time. I usually talk in the context of coaches, online entrepreneurs, and their business. But this could be anybody, right? This could be you and just how things went in your day. So let's start by talking about, so what is a negative tailspin? It's one of those things that happens when something doesn't go right. Maybe you did something wrong, maybe you made a mistake, maybe you bumped up against a hurdle on something that you're working towards, a project that you're working towards. Maybe it's just that inner voice that you've got that just tells you it's just not working. It's just not working. You're not doing what needs to be done. So whatever it is, whatever it starts like, the negative tailspin is perpetuated by that voice in your head. The one that says, you're such a loser. How could you be so stupid? That voice of the inner critic. And for many of us, that voice is pretty loud at times. And when we're in a negative tailspin, that inner voice of self-doubt really can do a number on how you feel and what you do. So let me just look here at my notes. So regardless of how it starts, you're going to hear things in your head like, it's never going to work out. How could I have been so stupid? What an idiot. What else is going to go wrong? You know, if this went wrong, something else isn't going to work too. This whole day is just gone to crap. One thing might have happened at 10 o'clock in the morning, right? Like right now, and you just write off the entire day or maybe even the entire week. What else is going to go wrong? This is so stupid. So notice that all of these things are thoughts in your mind. They are thoughts about how you interpret the world, about how you think about what's going on in your life. And all of those thoughts, all of those words, all of those sentences come together in your mind and create a feeling. And that is the negative tailspin. You think thoughts, and then you feel crappy, and then you think worse thoughts, and you feel crappier, and you just go round and round and round. And it can take a long time to get out of these. Some people are pretty quick, and maybe it happens and you kind of feel bummed out and then you move on. It's not to say that we're not ever going to feel bad about things. Of course we're going to feel bad about things. If we're a bit disappointed or if we're a bit discouraged, yeah. But it's when we allow those thoughts to keep going in our mind on replay over and over and over again, and that negative tailspin lasts for days or weeks or months, and we just use it as an automatic way to feel bad. And we get used to feeling bad instead of taking control of our mind, taking control of our thoughts, and choosing that we want to feel better and that we're worth feeling better. So sometimes when you're in one of these negative tailspins, the thoughts that you might have are things like I said earlier, this is never going to work. How could you be so stupid? I can't believe you did that. What else is going to go wrong? This whole day is a write-off. And when you think those thoughts, how do you feel? Well, you might feel discouraged. You might feel disillusioned. You might feel ashamed. You might feel disappointed. Mainly bad. Maybe you feel upset. Maybe you're frustrated. All of those emotions that are caused by the thoughts that you're thinking. What do you do when you feel that way? What do you do when you feel disillusioned and disappointed? Well, maybe you sit down on your couch and you turn on Netflix and you just zone out. Or maybe you grab a glass of wine and drink, and maybe drink a little bit more to try and get away from that bad feeling. Maybe you just numb out. You eat cake or eat cookies, or you procrastinate, or you just avoid talking about it or thinking about it, and you try to just numb out that bad feeling. When you do those things for an extended period of time, you're just going to feel worse. And then what happens is you take these actions, you avoid, you numb, you procrastinate, or you push harder, and you end up feeling even crappier. You feel worse. Maybe you say some things that you don't really mean. Maybe you push even harder. Maybe you just give up. All those actions as a result of feeling bad. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to share with you a pretty basic way, and basic doesn't mean it's not effective. These things are, that's one of the things that I love about mindset work. Sometimes taking the most simple, practical action can make such a difference in your day and in your week and in your life. So let me just have a peek at my notes here. So the first thing that you need to realize with these negative tailspins is that we're listening to the thoughts in our head. You're listening to the thoughts that your brain is just serving up to you on automatic pilot. And we're thinking those things, and we're not questioning them. We're thinking, well, if my brain says it, it must be true. And that's the first place for you to look for a way to start feeling better and to start getting out of that negative tailspin. So realize that when you make a small shift, it can have a massive impact. And I say that because it's like, it sounds so weird that just a small little shift, like knowing that the things that you automatically think in your mind are maybe true, or maybe they're not true, or maybe they're partly true. But just because we have these thoughts doesn't make them true. What it means is that our brain, who loves to just think thoughts all day long, 60,000 thoughts a day, the vast majority of which are never examined, never considered, never thought about at a deeper level. We just assume that because our brain thinks it, it's true. But it doesn't have to be true. We get to choose which of our thoughts serve us and which don't. So let's think about how can you actually get out of a negative tailspin. So the first thing is this piece of awareness. Knowing that just because you are thinking something doesn't make it true. And to know that the things that you think, those thoughts that you think, make you feel certain emotions. So when you think thoughts that are derogatory, when you think thoughts that are, you're putting yourself down, that inner mean girl or inner mean guy is talking in your head, and you feel worse and worse and worse, that emotion is created by those thoughts that you have. And when you get this, it is the place of absolute power on how you want to live your life. That your thoughts create your feelings. Because ultimately, we want to feel better. Yes, we're going to have times in our life when we don't feel well. And those times are often very valid. Maybe we're feeling really sad about something, and those emotions are valid emotions that we want to experience and want to feel, because if we're really feeling sad about something, it meant that it was important to us. Or maybe we're grieving something. It meant that that person, that individual, that experience, that pet even, was really, really important to you. But on the whole, as people, we want to feel better. And so when we allow that negative voice just to play on autopilot all the time, what we don't realize is that that negative voice is dictating how we feel. And how we feel dictates everything that we do in our life. When we're feeling better, we have a smile on our face instead of a frown. We reach out and say hi to somebody, or send somebody a note, pick up the phone and send a text, or just walk with an extra bounce in your step, compared to when you're feeling really depressed and down and like the world is just out to get you. When you feel better and you take those even small positive actions, people respond in kind. They smile back. They strike up a conversation. Something neat happens that makes you laugh. So feeling better is so often our goal. So the first step, knowing that your thoughts are not a done deal, that you can choose to change your thoughts. and knowing that your thoughts create your feelings. So that's the very first step. It's just that awareness. The second is to grab your journal. You guys know I'm big into journaling. So grab your journal, and if you're not sure how to do journaling, I did a 6-part video series. You can peek at it on YouTube, or you can look here on my Facebook page. I've got it on both spots. So grab your journal and a pen. Yep, I want you to do this handwriting. I want you to use pen and paper. And the reason for the pen and paper in your journal is because I want you to slow down, and I want you to really feel. I love this saying that I heard, and I can't remember who it came from because I really love to credit them. But when emotions are high, intelligence is low. So when we slow down and take time to write what's going on with us, we get a chance to diffuse some of those emotions. We get a chance to take those emotions down a couple notches, and then we can start to think more about what we want to do, more about how we want to feel, more about different actions that we could take. How to act instead of react, or instead of procrastinating. So grab your journal and a pen and put it on a new page. And then take a second and just breathe. A couple of deep centering breaths just to relax your body, to relax your mind. And then I want you to just write everything that's in your head. So you're taking dictation. You're like one of those secretaries from the 1950s or 1960s where you just come in with your pad and paper and you write down exactly what you're hearing from your brain. You're not judging, you're not censoring, you're not making it prettier. It doesn't matter if you use shorthand. It doesn't matter if anybody else can read those words. You get it out of your head and onto that paper. And you just take dictation and you write and you write and you write until it's done. Maybe it's 5 minutes. Maybe it's 10 minutes. Maybe it's only 1 minute. Who knows? You never know. It depends on where you're at. And then breathe again, because now you've done just about everything you need to do. So many people that I know, and myself included, if I'm in one of these negative tailspins and my thoughts are whirling and whirling and whirling, just taking a minute and breathing and remembering that just because I'm thinking it doesn't mean that it's true, doesn't mean that it's real. And then I get all my thoughts out of my head and onto that paper, and even that alone can calm me down some, and that sometimes is enough just to break that cycle. So take those steps and then see where you're at. Breathe again. Now, here's what I'd like you to consider. Know that in your mind, think of a friend, think of one of your great friends, or think of yourself even as a little kid, maybe 5 or 6 years old. And if it helps, look at a photo. You know, grab a photo of yourself as a child or a photo of your friend, and think about if this was what your friend had said to you, what kind of advice would you have given them? Would you totally believe everything that they said? Or would you say, well, wait a minute here. That's not completely true. Sure, you made a mistake, but guess what? Look at all these other things that you've done that were great. Or, you know, I know maybe you said something and stuck your foot in your mouth and really said something and hurt somebody's feelings. But honestly, I know that you're a kind and caring person. So what would the little you say? What would you say if it was the little you, the little 5-year-old version of you? What would you say to that child if they had written these things? What would you have said to your friend? That helps you to sort of step back and get some perspective on, wow, is this really as bad as I think it is? Is there a place here where I can have a little bit of compassion for myself? Is there a place here where I can look at these thoughts and realize that they're not 100% true? Maybe there's some place that there's some wiggle room where I could choose some different thoughts. So when you think about what you're thinking, let me get to my next page here. Remember that these thoughts have been served up to you on autopilot. It is just a tape that is replaying over and over and over in your head. And it's so powerful to see what's actually going on in your head. So then what you can decide to do is you can decide Maybe not all of these thoughts are 100% true. And ask yourself, what if it was possible, right? What if it was possible that not everything that I wrote down is 100% true? What would be possible for me? Is there some room for grace here? Is there some room for a little bit of self-compassion? How can you have a little bit more compassion for yourself? All of that place where you can care for yourself a little bit more, practice a little bit more self-acceptance and a little bit more self-love. That is the place, again, a major spot where you can break that negative tailspin. The last thing that you can choose to do is you can shift your thoughts. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to go from it's the worst thing in the world to it being sunshine and daisies. I'm not saying that, because if you're in that negative tailspin, God, you're not going to believe that it's all sunshine and daisies. You don't make this giant step in one move. But what you can do is you can make a couple of small steps. So here's some examples to get you thinking about how you might choose a new thought that's just a little bit better to keep you moving on a more productive path, a more productive way of feeling and thinking. So, for example, if one of the thoughts that you wrote down was, it's never going to work, you could change it with another thought that sounds something like this. Well, it didn't work this time, but I can learn, and I can learn to do better. And do you see how I'm not saying that it's perfect, and I've acknowledged that it didn't work, but it's not the end of the world. There's more time, there's a place for progress, there's a place for learning, to being open that you could grow and change. So let me tell you that one again. If your thought was, this is never going to work, it's screwed up and it's never going to work. Instead of that, it didn't work this time, but I can learn and I can do better next time. So another one. If this is what you wrote on your paper of getting all those thoughts out of your head, how could I have been so stupid? What an idiot I am. You could say, but you know what? It didn't work, but I meant well. I made a mistake, and I am a kind and caring person. And again, can you see how it's not going from terrible to beyond fabulous? It's that acknowledging that you are more than one thing, that maybe you did make a mistake, maybe you did say something, maybe you don't know, who knows what people think about what you did, but that at the heart, you're a good person. So taking that small step can really make a difference. And my third example is for people, and this is a pretty common thing, that people who think that Murphy's Law is true. Well, that didn't work. That means everything's not going to work. What else is going to go wrong? If that could go wrong, everything else will go wrong. You think about that. That one thing didn't happen, and you've written everything else off. Nothing else could ever go right for you. When you do that, you're kind of like that Peanuts character that has the little cloud over his head, that you think you decided that just because something happened in my past changes what will happen in the future. So remember, you could say to yourself something like this. Well, just because that thing didn't work out in the past, it doesn't mean that future things won't work out for me. Or a little bit easier way of saying it would be something like, well, just because that one thing didn't work out, well, that's past. But now I can try again. I can do my best. I can try, and who knows, maybe the next thing will or won't work out, but I don't have to bring my past with me to the future. A mistake that I made in the past doesn't have to be with me forever and ever and ever. Murphy's Law is not true. You get to choose. So, negative tailspin. We've talked a little bit about what it is as we're wrapping up here. You've got some thoughts. We all experience it. We know that sometimes we're going to feel good, sometimes we're going to feel crappy. But when you find yourself in a tailspin, this is when we're being going around and around and around that circle for a while, and it's time to get out. What do? The first thing you do is you realize that your thoughts are just being fed to you on autopilot, and they may be true or they may not be true. And more importantly, that how you think, the sentences in your mind, create the feelings in your body. And the feelings in your body dictate how you act or react or hide or procrastinate. You get to choose, right? And the other thing that's important when you're thinking about your thoughts is that they are optional. You get to choose, and now that you're aware, that is the biggest first step. The second thing that you do is you grab your journal and you take a second and you breathe. That's it. And just breathe and relax. You remember that when emotions are high, your intelligence is low and that you can't make another choice. You can't do the next best thing that's going to help you. And you grab your pen and your journal and you take dictation. You write everything that's in your head. You write it onto that piece of paper until it's done, until you're finished with it. And then you breathe again. And notice how you feel. You may already feel some relief. And if you do, that is wonderful. That is a great, great thing and part of the power of journaling. Then consider if that was your best friend that had said that to you, if they had just bared their soul and said exactly that to you, or if that was you as a 5-year-old and that's what your 5-year-old self had said. And get to that place where you can have a little bit of compassion for yourself, a little bit of separation from that mind drama. And then look at those thoughts and choose a couple of new thoughts, a couple of new ways that you can shift your thoughts just slightly to feel a little bit better. And before you know it, that negative tailspin, you stopped it. You've stopped it in its tracks. You've got a little bit more positive thought. Keep practicing that slightly more positive thought. And then you're going to be off to the races. So I'm so glad if you were here live. So nice to see you live. If you're watching the replay, I am welcoming you here in the replay. And my timing was absolutely perfect. I can see the sun is just coming here on the side of my ear. So I didn't have sun flatten my face before I finished chatting with you today. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.